Alright, so I told you guys I wanted to talk a little bit on toxic Christianity and some things I have. Okay, not some things, a lot of issues I have with it. And we're going to talk about Girl Defined because I know they are both very interesting people that are on the internet to talk about this. And I wanted to ask your guys' thoughts and opinions, and what you guys think of it. Obviously, right now, I'm sorry the format's not like my normal format. My computer's acting up, so I'm going to have to look into a desktop computer very soon. So I'm sorry I'm not doing this the normal way. I will soon be doing it back on my computer once I get a desktop set up because my computer's acting up. But we're going to get started on this, and I'll be commenting throughout, so I hope you enjoy.
I remember listening to a podcast. She's like a Christian influencer. And during this interview, she was saying that the most important person in your life is you. Even as a Christian, you are your most important thing. Like, not even God. And that whatever it is, these passions, these drives that are within you, that needs to be the most important thing about you. When we become the idol, the most important thing in our life, that's when our priorities get completely out of whack. We as Christians were not made to be the gods of our life. What's up, sisterhood? Thanks for joining us again. I'm pulling you out of the camera, like, let's go. Big, deep breath together. Because I feel like there is such a huge pressure on women these days to just, like, be the boss lady. And what I mean by that is just, like, you've got to do more. You've got to, launch a business, be an entrepreneur, like, fulfill all your dreams. You've got to be a 24/7,
Is this already going to jump into MLM speak? Because this is exactly why I downloaded this video, because it's like, you don't have to be a boss lady. Is this what we're about? Because, like, this is going to be interesting.
Take care of your kids, but then also have this incredible business, and at the same time, get on a magazine. Like, what are you waiting for? And you need to do it right. Yeah. The time is now. And I really do think that a lot of social media and just the comparison and the opportunity, because there is a lot of opportunity, has created this pressure on us as women from like ourselves in the Christian world to just like be better, do more. And I think we all need to take a step back and ask ourselves, like, okay, where is this coming from? And how does God define success? And are our priorities out of whack at all? I know both of us have had to take some major steps back, so we really want to dig into that and really help us all question and like ask ourselves, are we following God and really aligning our priorities with His, or have we maybe bought into some of this like boss lady mentality? Yes. If you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling like you don't measure up, like you're not successful, like you almost don't even want to tell people how you spend your time because you feel embarrassed, like stick with us to the very end, because this is a conversation we as Christian women need to have. We need to talk about this. I have to say this one thing before we jump into that. I've been seeing this, and it's interesting because it's, sorry, I know it's like a 60-second thing, but it's so important. Commercial break! It will matter so much. Hold that, please. Basically on Instagram, you know how you have Reels, or on TikTok, wherever you are, and it's this one where it's been like this little music, and on the screen it's a mom, like maybe holding her kid, and it says, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and then it changes, and then the music changes, and they whack that little bubble that says, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and it changes to all the things that they actually do. But what I've noticed is that
like what they do as a stay-at-home mom, or what they do
just as a woman. And so instead of being like, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom, they list all of their accomplishments, and I feel like we as women feel like we need to tell everyone, like, no, I don't take care of my kids, because that is an incredibly huge, amazing job. They say, no, here's all the things I actually do. I own this business. I, launched my oils company, and look how great we're doing. And I also do this and this and this and this. And yes, as a women, if you are a woman who watches your kids 24/7 at home, that's huge. But I feel like we have this need to tell people, no, I don't just work this corporate job. No, I don't just work this thing. Here's all the things that I do. Look how accomplished I am. And that, in and of itself, it's supposed to be a good thing. It makes you feel like, well, what's my bubble?
How could I ever measure up?
What's my thing?
Yes, which is what we're going to get into, which is all about what's your bullseye. What is your bullseye for success? Is it God-defined success, or is it a worldly version of success? Because when you chase after the worldly version, it only leaves you discouraged, exhausted, and never, ever, ever arriving at a place where you can be satisfied, ever. We're going to get into that. If you are someone right now feeling fearful and anxious, I want you guys to know about a free resource that we've created called Fighting Fear and Worry. It's a 7-day prayer journal. It's just like that deep breath. That felt so good. This is 7 days of a deep breath, fighting fear and worry. And this is a resource that we created to give away for free to everyone who is a part of our Patreon family. What is our Patreon family? It is a little community, kind of a medium community of amazing women, of you, the sisterhood, who have linked arms with us and said, we believe in the Girl Defined channel, we believe in Girl Defined Ministries, we want to get behind you, not just with our prayers and our encouragement, but financially, and in a small way, and collectively together, by each person giving $1, $2, $3 per month, per video, it makes a huge difference. And so every month we create free downloadable resources resources to encourage you in your faith as our way of saying thank you for joining our support team over at patreon.com/girldefined. A few others that we've already created. You'll get access to all of these.
It's
if you
insane.
join. You'll get all the past resources. We come out with monthly resources plus every new one going forward. How to discern a guy's true character. This is a good time for this one. A biblical practical guide, or how about this one? Battling sexual temptation. A biblical toolkit for Christian girls, for Christian women. This one, you've heard us talk about this. 136 questions to ask in a romantic relationship. All of these questions, if you're dating, you're going to want that. Or if you're just like, I've got girlfriends, I want to deepen my friendships, 50 questions to deepen your friendships. And they go on and on. This is only a few of them. Anytime you join our support team over at patreon.com/girldefined, first of all, we see every one of you as you join.
Yes, which let me shout out a few of you. Jessica Glennon, Melissa Bolivar, Claire, Christina, Sarah, Coy.
Thank you guys.
Those are just a few of you who have just joined our little patron fam, and
Thank y'all so much. So you'll get all the past resources plus every new one we create. And we do lots of fun giveaways, chats, convos, private Q&As inside of our Patreon platform. So if you'd like to do that, please do head on over to patreon.com/girldefined.
Okay, so this whole idea of being a boss lady, I remember a few years ago, it was one of the most prominent Christian, motivational speaker type. Yeah, very prominent influencer. I remember listening to a podcast because she was a guest on a business podcast that I enjoy, and I remember I was like, oh, I'm familiar with that person, and she's like a Christian influencer, so I was like, I'll listen to it. And during this interview, she was basically sharing her advice for women, and she was saying that the most important person and thing in your life is you, and it doesn't matter if you're married, if you have kids, even as a Christian, you are your most important thing, not even God, and that whatever it is, these passions, these drives that are within you, that needs to be the most important thing about you, and you need to chase that at all costs. And she went on to share a story, this was supposed to be all positive, about how her husband had given her some advice, I have some cautions, should we maybe slow down a little? And she was like, he was basically ruining my vibe, and I knew I needed to jump into this full speed. So basically saying, ignore everyone around you and cautions they give you, and you need to chase after your dreams. And personally, I just think that that is terrible advice for women. I think that it's important for us to be hardworking, ambitious. God has given us strength, and we should use it.
Strengths and talents, work is actually a good thing.
Yeah. But I think that when we become the idol, the king, the queen, whatever, the most important thing in our life, that's when our priorities get completely out of whack, because we as Christians were not made to be the gods of our life.
Yeah, I have issues with the fact of the idols of your life. Basically, from what I hear, or at least from my standpoint, women in the church are normally second to their husbands all the time. They're no equal ground, because it's always the man leads. So most times it seems that women are told to put everything on the back burner for everything else. Normally. All the time. And if they do get into something, and say MLMs, that's encouraged, but it's for the wrong reasons, because these MLM companies will, as you know, get them roped in, get them spending money that they don't need to be spending, tell them they're a boss lady. But saying that you are not the most important person in your life, well, most women aren't even told that what their feelings matter, or that they shouldn't. If they're women, a lot of times, especially if they're mothers, are criticized for every little thing. So I have a YouTube channel. So for me having a channel, people could maybe say, oh, you're not doing your wifely and mom duties. Well, if I am not able to dedicate some small amount of time out of myself, I will go stir crazy. Any person would. But to say that, you can't make yourself first, and you must make God first, yeah, I think God almost is pseudo name for something else instead. I don't really think it's a God they're implying. I feel it's more or less code name for put your kids ahead of yourself. Don't worry about those things. If you focus too much on yourself, then you're making yourself an idol. You shouldn't be more important than your kids and stuff. Okay. If my kids are happy and content, and I'm able to do something for myself, I should be able to do something for myself. So to condemn that aspect is to basically not encourage anything outside of who we are, at least in my opinion here in this.
So I think that we have to take a step back and make sure that we remove that very sinful mindset, because God says to put nothing before him, and if we put ourselves before him, ultimately, then we're already off to the wrong.
Yeah, and there's this idea in society, you probably felt it, that bigger is better. It's bigger house, bigger career, bigger job, bigger ambitions. If you're an entrepreneur, bigger business, bigger hips, bigger lips. I mean,
it's everything. Get the injections, you know.
Bigger.
And we're not saying this is
better.
bad. We're not saying like having a big house is bad.
Big
We're not,
isn't bad,
Yeah.
but the lie that bigger is always better,
Yeah.
and that bigger is the bullseye. That whatever you're doing, go big or go home. I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically the idea. And it's not big according to God's definition of big. It's not a kingdom mindset. It's not a discipleship, Christ at the center. I'm pursuing his purposes for me. It's a bigger in the worldly sense of like a temporal goal.
Yes. Ex-funding mindset. I understand. Do I agree? No. But just because you have a worldly mindset doesn't mean it's always bad. I've found Christian mindset to be very harmful. So, to make it say that secular mindset is wrong is so damaging, because most people in the secular world are more likely to be more understanding, more empathetic, more sympathetic, more understanding towards other people that are different than them. And outside of that, just because you may strive for something doesn't, and it can be secular, whatever that means, really, I guess, but if it's not God, kingdom, whatever, I feel like that diminishes any progress in life that you may have. So if you have a business of your own, a real business, and you're just trying to strive to have it grow large enough that you can get further, just for the benefits of the fact that, well, time is tough around this time right now. We're not going to deny that. So I just feel like it's just very diminishing, and making it seem like anybody who strives for something bigger, in the sense of that secular, could almost be misconstrued and said that's bad, and said no, you're not allowed to think that way, when you should be able to, in your I feel like it's very much a what they're saying is very much a, what's the word I'm thinking of, trying to think of the word and I can't think of it now. Might come to me. But, subjective, that's what it is. It can be subjective to anybody. So it's not just one thing. It shouldn't ever be just one thing. And if it is one thing, or however they're trying to mold this thing that they're talking about, it just seems very dangerous and hurtful, because to dictate how someone receives what they're doing in life, to almost negate it and make it seem like it's not important because it's not God-fearing. Okay, well, I could counter it and say, well, isn't anything that God gives you supposed to bless you? Like, anything God gives you a blessing somehow? Because that's usually how they all end up turning the tables around.
Accomplishments, fulfilling all of your dreams. Like you said, you are the center of your world, and you're going to shove everyone aside to pursue your dreams. And that pressure, I have felt that so much in my life. And I know I was just talking to a younger woman who's like on the brinks of 18, graduating high school, and at that point in life, right there, for those of you in that season or coming upon that season, that is a hard time. Everyone's asking you, what are you going to do with your life? What are your plans? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And you're kind of like, I don't know, but I better have a really good answer or I'm going to look like a loser, right? And it's this pressure to have everything figured out. Then you get past that, or maybe you get married, or maybe you're single in your 20s, and there's that pressure. Bigger is better. Like you said, listing all of the things that you do to show people.
I'm not just that. No.
Right.
Let me tell you.
I'm a boss lady. I am crushing it. Look at all the things I do. But then at night, we lay down in our beds and we're exhausted and we're anxious and we're not satisfied. We're not fulfilled, but we keep chasing this rat race. What are we doing? Like, as Christian women, we need to step back and say, is my bullseye, is it centered on what God says is successful? Or am I chasing after the world's version of what true success is?
And I want to share a passage of scripture with you.
And like I said, to what they're saying, success is subjective to everybody. It shouldn't be what you view as successful and what someone else views as successful, and then to negate either one and say they're wrong because you're a woman, it should not be that way, is not fair. Because you're women too, and you have a channel. Are you saying that your success is also not, like, should it be negated? That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like it's kind of contradictory.
Really quick, because I think in like the tiniest sense, this should be our bullseye. There's a lot more that we share, and we unpack this in depth on a recent episode of the podcast, The Girl Defined Show. Go to episode 62. We take a deep dive, really unpacking. Okay, so what is God's bullseye for women specifically? As biblical women, how do we know what success is? So we take a deep dive. This is kind of like a taste. If you want more, we'll link it below, but just go to The Girl Defined Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Okay, but here's a little snippet of what God says is most important. So Jesus is, he just silenced the Sadducees in Matthew, and now the Pharisees are all getting together, and one of them, an expert of the law, tested him with this question. So this is as Jesus is on earth, and an expert of the law says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And they're trying to trick him. And Jesus says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." And so I think this, at the basest level of all, is the most important. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all...
Girls, what are you doing?
Love your neighbor as yourself. And so I think that just clears up all the confusion for us. What is the foundation of why we are doing what we're doing? Is it because we are the most important thing in our life, or is it because we are saying, "God, I want to love you. Please change my heart. I am so naturally prone to wanting to love myself the most." And people say, like, "Well, you can't love anyone else, and unless you love yourself." When we're saying, like, love God the most, like, focus on that. That is the thing we struggle with the most. Like, we naturally think about ourselves. Do we naturally think about God all the time? No. So I think if we spent more energy...
I'm going to strongly disagree, because growing up in the church, you were not allowed to love yourself as a woman, because if you did, you were selfish. So to say, focus on God, it's basically trying to deter you and say, hey, don't look at yourself, focus on God, and love Him, because that will help you. But in reality, you're just changing directions and focusing on something that isn't really going to help you in the long run, because, in my opinion, if you're not even encouraged to have self-love, you end up feeling worse anyway, because the church is known to constantly put people down. All the time. You're supposed to feel like crap. You're a mess. You're never good enough. So, I'm going to disagree with that. In my own opinion, I'm going to disagree with that.
On learning to love God more, that would clear up a lot of the issues that we have personally, which I know is not very popular to say. This isn't very popular, but God is saying that you should love me. That's what we were made for. So we are fulfilling our greatest purpose, our greatest need, our greatest, literally what we were created for when we love God with all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our mind. And we cannot do that on our own. So that's why we have to pray and ask God to empower us through the Holy Spirit to love Him genuinely. And we have to be in the Word. We have to have community, mentors in our lives to help us guide us in that direction. We can spend the rest of our lives just working on that. And that would be enough, So I just want you to know, that is the most important thing. So when you get to the end of your day, you can say, okay, did I love God fully and completely? And did I love my neighbor as myself, my kids, my husband, whoever my closest neighbors are? And if those two things, and you're like, that's all you did, girl, woo, you are crushing it. But that's not how we operate. No, and I think a sign that we're not operating from that bullseye of God-defined success is there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of, am I measuring up, questioning? It's me, right? You can see this focus is all about me. And regardless of whether you're single, married, you have kids, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're working, you're, outside the home, inside the home, you're in ministry, you're just trying to, okay, what does tomorrow hold? The next step, if you find yourself in a place of that comparison, that fear, you find your focus on you, then I think that is a sign that you aren't pursuing that heart, that discipleship, building God's kingdom. This life, it's not actually about me. It's about me loving God and serving Him and loving others. I can tell you that in my own life, in Girl Defined. So true confession, when my heart in ministry, right? It's here I am, as they say, a professional Christian in the sense, my work is to tell people about Jesus. But here I am finding myself drifting into the world's version of what success is, which is me looking at the numbers, looking at, oh, are we growing in this way? Are we hitting these sales? What attendees do we have at the conference? How are the books doing on Amazon? It's those aren't bad things.
But yet you self-promote all the time, and you do a lot of conferences. I'm feeling a little bit of hypocrisy going on here. So basically, you want other women to not focus on themselves in the sense of success. But it's okay for you. Got it. Okay.
And it's not wrong to have goals and to work hard. Those are good things, but it's when those things become the main goal, right? And even in ministry, I find my heart wandering into those realms. And as soon as I do that, the joy is gone. It is my joy in the Lord is gone. It is all about me reaching what the world says I need to do to be successful. And any one of us can fall into that trap. You may think, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom with my kids. Maybe you're homeschooling. Same trap, right? You're comparing, are my kids as advanced as the other kids? Are we doing the best curriculum? Are we...
No, not always. I think at least now in this time period in life, I don't think a lot of us focus on that as much, especially as a millennial. Sure, we want our kids to be successful, but and grow and learn, but it's not like a competition. I'm excited for anyone else's kids that does something that my kid isn't doing, or vice versa, I would think. But it doesn't, I don't think of it as like a competition in any way. I mean, yeah, there's, like, you strive for certain things, but you, like, and you can't, like, push it with kids for certain things, but it's not like a competition. And it's definitely not all about me either.
In as many programs as they should be. It's like, what is the bullseye in your season right now? How do you live out to be a faithful, it's truly a faithful follower of Jesus, loving God with your whole heart, loving your neighbor as yourself, pouring your life, serving others. Jesus came to this earth to serve, to not be served, but to give his life as a ransom for many. And we're called to walk in the footsteps of our Savior, and only by God's grace, only by seeking him, by pursuing his word, by crying out and saying, God, I got nothing. Help me. I need you today, in this day, in this moment. Help me to keep my heart focused on you. And everything I do come from a motivation of glorifying you and serving you. And when we do that, God brings so much joy into every season, and the striving can cease in a worldly sense. We know this is just a quick overview. Again, go to our podcast, The Girl Defined Show, to take a deep dive. We'll link it below. And again, we just want to encourage you, if you want this message to spread, and you're like, yeah, I am on YouTube, or I'm on Instagram, or I'm wherever you're watching this video, and you're like, I wish there were more messages like this, we need your help. Not only do we need you to like, comment, share, just even sharing it to wherever you are on this, texting it to friends, sharing it on Instagram, leaving a review, all of that helps so much. But then joining our Patreon family, like Kristen said, getting all of these free products, just go to patreon.com/girldefined. We'll link it below, but you have no idea. Your donation of just even $1 per video makes a massive difference. It helps this channel continue on. So thank you to those of you who are supporting, and we ask you to join us and become a supporter. And until then, we will see y'all next week.
Alright, well, that was that video. I hope you enjoyed. It was a very interesting take on the boss lady stuff, which is so cringe-worthy. Stop using it. But yeah, I will, I hope you enjoyed, and you will comment down below, share, like, subscribe, tell me what you guys think of this one. I'm planning on doing more of these types of videos. I also still need more ideas of video ideas, because I don't always know what to think about, like, for video ideas or how to look for them. So there's sometimes a chance that I'm a little behind. Besides doing anti-MLM, like, that's pretty obvious. But I want to branch out into some other things to talk about, because I like to talk about other things. So I figured I would ask you guys what you guys thought. And I'm sorry again, like I said, computer's acting up. Every time I go to record a video, it stalls on me. So I'm looking for a desktop computer. So that's that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.